Welcome back to Fruitful Living. I'm Dawn, and we're closing out our phase 1 of our Garden Audit series. We've been checking our soil for ego, anger, and resentment. Today, we're dealing with a weed that grows along the fence line. The thorns of comparison. It's a painful habit looking at someone else's beautiful flowers and suddenly feeling like our own garden is a failure. Let's swap those thorns of comparison for the deep-rooted joy of contentment. Comparison is a weed that grows the moment we look away from what God has put in our own hands. It's the mental trigger that says, "Why is her marriage so easy?" Or, "Why is her career blooming and I'm still pulling weeds?" This is the weed of comparison. It's prickly and sharp. The moment you start comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel, you lose your joy. Comparison makes you ungrateful for the very blessings you may have just prayed for a year ago. Comparison tells you that your garden isn't good enough unless it looks like theirs. In today's great exchange, we are swapping the thorns of comparison for the joy of contentment. Contentment isn't about having everything you want. It's about realizing God has given you exactly what you need for the season you are in. It's staying focused on your plot of land. Contentment was actually what brought me to the Lord. I felt myself longing for the next thing that would give me pleasure, peace, fulfillment. I was constantly comparing myself to everything, anything, convinced that I needed more, needed new, needed extra, needed everything. And the more I got, the more I had, the more I consumed, the more my cup was full, the greater the discontent was. Jesus was my missing puzzle piece. Let's get into the word. In Philippians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12, Paul writes while in prison in Rome to the Christians in Philippi. "Not that I speak from need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. I know how to get along with little. I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need." He is reminding us that contentment comes with Christ. Contentment is a fruit of the Spirit. If you have ever known how to get along with little, then life is good. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, Paul writes, "For we do not presume to rank or compare ourselves with some of those who condemned themselves, but when they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they have no understanding." This is saying that we, as Christians, are not to compare ourselves with those who condemned themselves, those who praise themselves, explaining that those who compare themselves with themselves actually have no understanding and are not wise at all. Paul explains that he's not participating in the competition to be the most popular or the most followed or the most liked, and is encouraging us to do the same. The only comparison we should ever be doing is comparing ourselves to Jesus, following the Holy Spirit in us and becoming more like Him. In Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5, we are reminded, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you, which is actually quoting Old Testament, Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. But together, Hebrews 13:5 and Deuteronomy 31:6, what are these verses telling us about God? About God's character and the love He has for us. They are reminding us that if we keep our lives free from the love of money, free from comparison, when we are content with what we have, we can be reminded that God is with us. He will not abandon us. He will not leave us. And just as Jesus explained in Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. Bring your requests to God. Pray continuously. Pray about everything. Let's look at the wisdom in Galatians chapter 6, verse 4. But let each one examine his own work, and then he will have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in another. Paul is telling us to keep our eyes on our own work. God isn't going to judge your garden based on your neighbor's harvest. He's looking at your faithfulness with what He gave you. In other words, we should start developing the habit of looking at our own work, at our own behaviors, in the power of the Holy Spirit and asking, was this effective? Was this meaningful? Was this truly helpful? Did I reflect Christ in this? And remember 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. Now godliness with contentment is great gain. This really circles back to my longing for contentment. I did not have godliness. I did not have Christ. I did not have the Holy Spirit. I had much. I had all the things. I did not have the Lord, which was my missing puzzle piece. God gave me great gain. Living in a way that honors God, satisfied with whatever I have, made me richer than that old dead person I was without Him. Here's your 60-second garden task for today. I want you to practice fencing your heart. The next time you feel that sting of comparison, maybe while scrolling social media, I want you to stop and say, I bless what God is doing in their garden, but I am thankful for what He is doing in mine. Lord, thank you for my plot of land. Thank you for your trust in me to tend to my own garden. Let's read a couple more scriptures. Proverbs 14:30. A sound heart is life to the body, but envy is rottenness to the bones. James chapter 3 verse 16. For wherever jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every evil thing. Thank you for joining me for day 4 of the Garden Audit. I hope you find so much joy in your own harvest today. Join me tomorrow as we move into phase 2, pest control, starting with the locusts of gossip. Until then, stay fruitful.